guys, welcome back to this project. I think if you completed the part 1 successfully, and if you're here, then yeah, that's good. If you're new, then just go to the part 1. The link of that project will be in the description. Well, in the part 1, what we actually did is we actually built a layout where you can see this layout. This window is actually divided into 3 frames, which is frame up, frame down, and this is actually a frame table, and here there's a mess. We are going to fix that soon, but for now we just completed the layout, and now we are going to work on these database operations or the file operations that we are going to perform on the particular data which is given by the user. Like if the user gives your data here and if clicks on add, it have to get updated in this particular table. If we select something and if he clicks on update, it have to show the data which is already there, and from here we are going to update the data. And once you update it, here you are going to get a confirm button. We are going to build that button soon, and if you click on this one and if you click on this delete button, it must get deleted from that particular table that we created. So we are going to perform these interesting operations now on the data which is given by the user. But where is the data now? Well, we are going to create a dummy data, and for that I'm going to use CSV file, where you are going to create a CSV file using Python code, and so that we can perform operations on that particular thing. Yeah, first let's fix this frame table. Okay, let me see. Let us give relief equal to flat. Just give paddocks 10. I think this will solve the problem. Yeah, and now you can see a frame table, right? It's good. Now we fixed it. Now let's work on these things. For that, I'm going to create a separate file called views.py, where we are going to perform all the database operations over there. And once we are done, once we performed all this add data, search data, all these operations, we are going to connect those operations to this API that we created, and we are going to update data using those things. So first, let's work on how to manipulate data using CSV file and how to use them and how to update everything. Let's do it. So for that, just create a file called views.py. And here the actual game begins, because this is really an important file which controls all the operations of that particular data. In order to manage the CSV file, comma separated file that we are creating, we are going to use a module which is already there in Python. For that, you have to import 2 things. One is import sys and one more is import CSV. So these 2 modules are going to take care of the file that we are handling. In order to perform operations, like first and foremost thing is we'll create a file called CSV, and we are going to add a dummy data into that. And for that, I'm going to write a function called add data. So just give df add and just give I as parameter. I'll let you know why. And later we are going to create a CSV file, and for that, write code as with. We are going to open data.csv, and we are going to append. We are going to use this file in append mode. So just give append and just give new line equal to, because whenever you're appending, whenever you're adding data, it will create one more empty line in the end. That's what it exactly means. Just give as file. We are going to use this data.csv as file, and just create a variable called writer for writing the data. Initialize that csv.writer. There's a method called writer, and just give this file as parameter. And yeah, now we initialized, and now it's time to enter the data. So for that, just give writer.writer. And just send this I as parameter again. Okay, it's actually writer.write-row. And for example, if you use this function called add, for example with the data, just give anonymous. Just follow the same order which is there in the table, which is name, gender, telephone number, and email. So I'm gonna follow the same order. Name, gender, maybe male, and just give any number because this is a dummy data. Just give data@gmail.com. And if you call this function add, and if you run this one, it will create a CSV file, data.csv file. We actually didn't have data.csv file, right? If you don't have a file and if you are trying to access that file in Python, what it will do is it will create a new file called data.csv and it will append the data that you gave using this function, okay? And if you run this one, it will create a data.csv file, and here you are going to see the data here. I think you guys understood how this add data exactly works, and for that we actually created data.csv and we are storing our data in the form of add function. Okay, and this is all about add. Once we add it, we want to know whether it's got updated into that CSV file or not, whether it's got updated in that particular table or not. For that, there is a function called see data actually. So in order to see the data, we are going to create this function. So I'm going to create a function called view, which shows us the data. You can create your own function. For now, I'm just going to give view. So that what are we going to do is just create a list called data, and we are going to open the CSV file. So just give with open data.csv. We are going to open it as a file, and let's initialize it with the variables. So just give, because here we are going to read the data, so just give read equal to csv dot reader. Actually csv dot reader file. It will read the file and it will initialize this read one, and once we are done with it, and now we are going to read each and every row in that file. So for that, just give for row in read, or reader. You can give reader if you want. I think reader makes sense. And just give data dot append row. And now what we are doing is we are just opening that data.csv file and we kept it in read mode, and this time we are just going to get that entire data into this data list. We're just adding those entire data, copying those entire data into this data list. And if you just give print data by the end, it will print the data which is there in that file. That's what here exactly happening. And if you call this one view, and if you run this one, I think now you guys can see the data here. Here we have two. One is anonymous. Actually, it is printing 3 times. Why? Okay. Okay, now I understood why it is printing 3 times. We actually run this 3 times. I have to keep this in comments. And I'm going to delete these 2 things. And if you rerun this one, let me save it. And if you rerun this one, this time it will show us the data which is there in the CSV. This is what we are actually doing. What we are actually doing, we are just creating an empty list, getting the data from that file using this with open data.csv as file, and by initializing it. And from each and every row of that particular data, we are just going to copy that. We are copying that entire data into this data list. And if you click on print data, it will give us the entire data and it will show which is there in that data.csv file. This is what here exactly happening. And when it comes to add function, we're just opening or creating a file, CSV file, and we are appending it. How are we appending it? By calling that function with the data given over there. And remember that data must be given in a list, and definitely follow the format which is there in that frame table, which is name, gender, phone number, and email. Just try to follow that. And view data will show us the entire data which is there in the CSV file. Add data will add the data into that CSV file. I hope you guys understood. And now it's time to create one more interesting function which handles data. Okay, we know how to add data and we know how to view data. And now it's time to build how to delete that data which is there in that CSV file. And how are we going to do that? I'm going to tell you an interesting thing. I told you before, even in the previous part 1 video, I said that in order to, like, phone number is really a key thing here, because we are going to use this as a primary key, as we are going to access the entire data. We are going to manipulate the data using this telephone number. So we are going to use this telephone number as a reference to get the data from that particular CSV file. So let's do it. So for that, just create a function called remove and just give is parameter, because this I plays a key role. I'll tell you how. And let us create a new list, which is nothing but an empty list. I'll tell you why. So we are going to access the telephone number, right? So just give telephone here. And that telephone number is nothing but this I. So we are going to pass that particular telephone number as parameter, and using that telephone number, we are going to delete that entire row in that data. Okay. And now we have a telephone number. We are created a new list. And now let's open that CSV file. So just give it open data.csv as file. And just give reader equal to csv.reader file. And for each and every row in reader, for row in reader, we will copy that row into this new list. So just give new list dot append row, and at the same time we will check whether that row has the telephone number which is given by the user. For that, just give for element in row, we are going to check each and every element. Element is nothing but this. Anonymous is an element, mail is an element, telephone number, Gmail, all these things are element. For each and every row, we'll check whether this particular element is equal to the phone number which is given by the user. So for element in row, if element equal to telephone, what we'll do, if both are equal, we'll just delete that particular row, right? Just give new list. We are not going to delete that directly from the data.csv file. First, we'll copy that data into this new list, and there we are going to make changes about that data, because we should not lose the data which is there in that CSV file, because this is the real data which we are going to handle when it comes to real-time problems, when it comes to real-time projects where you're really handling a data which is really important at the time. You don't have to lose that, right? So in order to make it happen, like in order to not to lose that data, what we'll do is we'll copy that entire data into the new list. We'll make changes in that new list, and once we are good at it, we will update that data into this data.csv. Exactly, that's what here we are doing. First, we'll create a new list and we'll copy that new list from the CSV, and at the same time we're checking whether that particular element is equal to the phone number which user want to delete, like the data or the list which user want to delete. And once both are equal, what we'll do is we'll just remove that particular data from that new list and we'll just update that new list. That's what here we are doing. So just give new list dot remove row. We'll delete the entire row, not just the element but the entire row. Okay, and now once we got this new list, so we are going to update this new list. So in order to save this, we will create one more function called save, and inside this we will pass this new list as parameter. And from where we are going to create this new list, here itself we'll create one more function called save. Just give j as parameter and we'll save this. Again we are going to open that data.csv file. And now we are going to copy that thing. How? Just give writer equal to same logic in order to append data or in order to write data. And just give writer dot write rows. Here rows, not just row, because we are updating everything. We are getting all new things. We are not just updating only one data at the time. We are just going to update all of them, all rows. So just give write rows. Just be careful. Here it is write row and here it is write rows. Okay, while adding you'll just add one single thing, but when you're updating you have to update, especially in this case you have to update almost everything. So this is what here we are doing. So what we did, we created a new list to copy the data from the CSV file because we don't want to modify the data directly. In order to avoid that, in order to make changes, we'll create a new list and we are going to get the telephone number from the user. We'll open that file. We'll keep that in read mode, and for row in reader, we are just copying that data and appending it in new list. At the same time, we are checking whether that element or whether that row has the telephone number which is given by the user or not. If both are equal, if both are same, then we'll delete that row and we'll update that list. And once we updated that list, we just created a method called save, and this new list will get copied into the data.csv. So for that, just open that file, give that in write mode and give writer.write rows of j. That means this new list will get updated here. I hope you guys understood. For example, Anonymous has this as telephone number, and if you copy and remove, call this function with this number, and if you run this one and we want to see the list, right? And if you give view again here, just keep it here. Let me give an extra data here. Just copy this thing and give comma, and this time give mathf, any name. Save it and just give this in write mode, and we'll give new line once we are done. See, here you are going to see an empty list, and let's also add this data again. We have to be careful while deleting the numbers. Just give demo as name, just give mail and give data as 1 2 3. And here just give demo@gmail.com, and if you run this one, it will add and it will delete the data which is having this number. Let's give one more add. Let's see. So here you are seeing the first one got deleted and the second one is this one. in this way we are going to delete the data. And one more thing is, remember that when you are deleting the data, please be remember of this telephone number, because using this telephone number itself we are going to access data and we are going to delete data. And just don't try to give the same telephone number. If you have same telephone number to more than one row, then it will delete all the entire rows. Okay, just be careful with this phone number. Now we created a remove, and now it's time to work on update and search. Keep these two things in comments. And even this thing, because it will add the data again when you are updating or when you're rerunning this program. Okay, and now just create a function called update, and here we have to update, and in order to update we need that data and we have to know what data is that. So for that we need I as parameter. We are going to get the phone number again, and just we are going to do the same. We are going to get the new list and we are going to get the telephone, but the thing is here we are going to get the telephone number a bit different. So here we'll give I of 0. I'll tell you why. We'll open again the data file. So we'll open data.csv, and in read mode as file, just initialize that reader equal to csv dot reader of file, and for each and every row in reader we'll copy that. We are doing the same thing which we already did, like this. While removing the data, we are going to copy the previous data and at the same time we are going to check for element in row if element equal to telephone. We'll give those variables. So just give I of 1. Next we have gender, which is I of 2. Telephone, I of 3. And email, I of 4. Now what we'll do is we'll create a list, updated list called data. So just give data here, data equal to, we'll pass all these updated values, name, gender, telephone, and email. Once we got these updated values, we'll get the index of that particular row. How? Just give index equal to new list dot index of that row. Just give row. Like what we are exactly doing is, for example, just imagine in the beginning we have a telephone number and later we have some name. Just copy this entire thing. You guys will understand why. This is actually a string, so just give in string and in the beginning just give that telephone number again. I'll tell you why. Okay, what we are doing is, when user want to update this list, we will pass telephone number 2 times, and we'll keep this telephone number in the beginning itself so that it will be easy for us to access and make changes. Okay, we'll not do this explicitly, we are going to do this implicitly. We are going to get that telephone number and we'll keep that in the beginning of the list, and then we'll open the CSV file, we'll search for this thing which is there, like we'll search for this entire thing having this telephone number. Once both are equal, we will create those variables again, name, gender, telephone and email, and we will update that I of 1, I of 2, I of 3 and I of 4. What are these things? 1, 2, 3 and 4. We are going to update all of them. But the thing is, guys, remember that don't change the telephone number, because that's actually acting as a key. If you change everything, you might lose the data, or the interpreter will throw errors on your face saying that it doesn't exist. Okay, just be careful. If you want to update data, just delete that thing and update again and add again. Okay, and once we updated these values, we are creating one more list called data, which stores these updated data, and we will get the index of the particular thing by giving new list.index of the particular row. This entire row index we are going to get. Don't get confused. I think now you guys understood, and now we have to update this data. So now we have this data and we also have this index, right? Now we'll update that new list of, we'll update that row by accessing its index. New index equal to data. And now the data will get updated, but once we got this updated list, we have to update that into that CSV file, right? Now we just created a new list and we copied the CSV entire data and we updated that in the new list. We have to update that in the CSV file as well. So for that, we will create one more method called update new list. So just give update new list method. We'll send this new list as parameter. And here we are going to create that update new list. So just give def update new list. And we'll give j as parameter this time. And so once we got this, now we will open that data.csv file in write mode this time. Okay, with open data.csv in write mode, and whenever we are writing something, we'll create a new line in the end. And as file writer equal to csv dot writer and writer dot write rows of I. That's it. It will update the CSV file. For example, let's just give some sample. What do we have in CSV file? This demo, right? So we'll try to change this demo to some name. Okay, so just give sample equal to, first we'll give that phone number as the key, and then we'll give the data. So instead of demo, we'll give okay, let's give my name, Coder, and just give as female instead of male, and give the same telephone number because we are going to keep that data, and just give girl at 123 girl123@gmail.com. Now if you call this update, not update new list, just copy this, just call this update method and send the sample as parameter. Okay, just keep this inside this if. And now if you see this one, and if you see this one, and now the data got updated. Everything changed, but the phone number didn't change because that's the key for us, so I didn't change. Okay, so in this way this update data exactly works. I hope you guys understood, and yeah, try to keep this inside this if element equal to telephone number. If that particular telephone number matches the number given by the user, then at the time only we are going to update the data. So we gave everything after that inside this if statement. Okay, and now if you call this function with the sample given, it will update the data that we have. Okay, and keep this in comments so that it will not update again. And now it's time to work on one more interesting simple function which is called search. Just create a function called search. Search. We need I, and create an empty list called data, and we are going to search by getting the telephone number as a reference. So just give telephone equal to I. We are going to open that CSV file and just give this in read mode. Initialize it. And for row in reader, and we'll search for elements, for element in row. If that element equal to telephone number, we'll just get that data.append row, and it will return that data. That's it. So what we are doing, we are creating an empty list and we'll get the telephone number as a reference, and we'll open that CSV file. We'll keep that in reader mode. We will initialize that, and for each and every row in reader, like for each and every row. This is just a demo, so I just gave one data. We'll delete this thing. And now here we have 3 data, for example. For each and every row means this entire row, and it will check each and every element inside this, and it will check the phone number. And if it got the phone number which is searching by the user, then at that time it will copy that data by this data.append row, and it will return that data and it will show that as output. That's what this search exactly for. For example, if you give search, give phone number 123 and give print data. If you run this one, it is showing the data which is having 123. So here we have, okay, 2 times there is a girl coder which is having 123 because it's adding again the data by this instructions. Okay, let me delete these 2 things and let me save it, and let me delete all these extra things here. So here we have 1 2 3, just give 1 2 3 4 here because we must need a unique phone number. So if you click on this one, it will show us the data which is having 1 2 3. Okay, so in this way this exactly works. Now we actually completed all these operations which are there in this particular API, and now we have to connect these operations to this API. That's what we have to do, and we are going to do that in the part 3. I hope you guys learned something new and interesting by this part 2. See you in the part 3. If you like this video, hit that cute little like button, and if you're new and if you still didn't subscribe, then what are you waiting for? Just go and tap the red button so that you'll never miss an update from us. And yeah, see you in the part 3.